Okay. Alrighty, good morning, everyone. My name is Nicole Quinn, and I am the Volunteer and Outreach Coordinator for Literacy New Jersey in Gloucester County. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Before I get started, I would just like to run through just a couple housekeeping slides, nothing too big. If anyone's using, let's start here. If you have any questions, please use the chat box at the bottom. While Catherine is speaking, I will be manning the chat box and I will try to answer your questions as quickly as possible. If I can't answer the question, I will pass it along to Catherine, who will then answer it as soon as she gets a chance to. And this session will be recorded, so please stay muted, but we'd like you to have your cameras on. If you're using the Whova app on your phone, you can toggle through different screens by just swiping your finger left to right, and you'll be able to see different screens that way. You'll always be able to get back to the first screen if you just keep swiping. And through Zoom, if you're not sure how to chat, you can chat by clicking more and then the chat option. So that'll give you that. And then so that's it for that. I'll stop sharing for Catherine. At the end of the workshop, I'll also be sharing a link, an evaluation link in the chat box. If you would not mind just taking us a minute to fill that out for us, we'd really appreciate it. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker, Catherine Mitch. Catherine has been involved with Literacy New Jersey since 1994, first as a tutor, then a trainer, a board member, a master trainer, and a program leader. With so many years under her belt, she's learned by experience what techniques work well. Still, she loves to learn more and listen to ideas that other tutors have to share. I'm now going to pass this on to Catherine to begin her workshop on using questions to help students develop comprehension skills. Pass that over to you, Catherine.
I was being a good participant and muting myself, and just like everybody else, I started talking and nobody could hear me. So just like when you're going to any conference workshop, there are handouts, and I'm putting right now in the chat box a link to all of the handouts, and I would appreciate it if you would just click on that link right now, because we will need to look at some of those things as we are going through the workshop today. So go ahead and click on it, and you will see in addition to the PowerPoint presentation that I'm using, feel free, especially if you're on a phone, to look at that PowerPoint as we go along, and, you know, make notes on there or do whatever you want to, but please download it to your own computer if you're going to write on anything, because I had to give you editor access so that you could download it. But if you start writing on it, then you've kind of messed it up a little bit for everybody else. So take a minute, find those materials, and then we will get started. All right.
Catherine, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Absolutely.
Just don't forget about the levels so I can work out the breakout rooms.
Morning, Literacy New Jersey.
Hi, yes. One more thing I would like you to do before we get started is, would you write your name and what level you are interested in exploring today? You can either write the level of your student, so beginner, high beginner, low intermediate, intermediate, high intermediate, or advanced. If you would just put that in the chat right now, I would appreciate it. A couple of people have not been able to get onto the shared drive, but I believe that Nicole's going to help you out there. So if you are sending a private message to me, I won't be able to look at it. So please, if you've got private messages, please send them to Nicole, And she's my tech aide today. So thank you so much, Nicole. All right, well, let's get going with our workshop. So questioning techniques that help your students understand what they read. So the very first thing I want to ask you, and I love to have an interactive workshop. So we have a lot of people, so we might not be able to get to everybody, but I'm going to ask you questions, and I hope that you will unmute yourself and start answering the questions. All right. So in your experience, why don't our students understand what they read? What are some of the challenges that they face?
A vocabulary.
Vocabulary, very good, thank you. Who else?
By the time they decipher what they've read, they don't comprehend it. They're so busy saying the words, pronouncing.
Yes.
Decode.
Yeah. Thank you, Patricia. That is so true. That's so true. That actually happened with my daughter. My daughter, when she was first learning how to read, she spent so much time on phonics and decoding the words that she didn't know what she'd read afterwards. Yeah, so thank you.
Accessing words and finding the meaning.
Right, accessing words and finding the meaning, right. How about one more idea? Why don't your students understand what they read?
I'd also say that they have anxiety, that they get so nervous about it that it blocks their ability to think, and it shuts it down.
Thank you so much, David. That is, and I'm going to actually talk a little bit about that today, and about that anxiety that
Sure.
an idea that can help our students overcome them. All right, so, well, what do we mean by understand?
Is in the audience for this one.
Ooh, somebody is not muted. JK, you're not muted. Yeah, so what do we mean by understand? Right, if you remember your tutor training, do you remember the Muffle Up story? You know, where you were able to read, was that understanding? No, that was just calling out the words on the page, you know, that they really didn't understand what they read, right? So what do we mean by understand? What is our goal when we're helping students improve their reading skills? What is our ultimate goal?
Students can understand the context of the material so that they can successfully comprehend the meaning of a particular word or a particular homonym of a particular word.
Okay.
So they can use reading to learn about the world.
Yes,
Yeah.
Helen, thank you. I think it goes one step beyond what you were saying, Olga. I think it goes so that we read in order to gather information. We read in order to enjoy, you know, it's entertainment. We read in order to understand other people better. Like when you get a Valentine's Day card and it says something super special, that's like really wonderful, isn't it? You know, and it's a lot more than just understanding the words on the page. So the next question about understand is, well, what do our tests test? Because honestly, we have these wonderful programs and they are volunteer programs. And I know that none of you get paid for all the wonderful work that you're doing. And I myself, you know, I'm teaching 2 classes and 1 individual student. Nobody pays me for that. I do it because I want to be a community builder, because I want to be part of something that's bigger than myself. However, I couldn't do that unless a program existed. And in order for programs to exist, they need money. It's just the reality of life. And the way most of our programs get money is by being able to show potential funders that our students are making progress. So we have to use these tests in order to show other people that our students are really moving forward in their lives. So I think it behooves us just a little bit as tutors to understand what our tests are testing. And we're going to go into that in more detail later. But here is an interesting question I'd like to pose. Do our students even think it is necessary to understand?
I think so. This is Bobby. I think they do think it's necessary because that's why they're in the class. They need enough understanding so that they can improve their lives, get a better job, help their kids read, help their kids in school, those kinds of things. That's where they're coming from.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
I think my students would be happy as long as they communicated well. If they thought their English was good enough for conversation, that would be enough for them. We know that they may need to understand more words. That's more like a literacy thing for me, but the student would be quite happy if they could just speak well.
Thank you so much, Kayla, for bringing up that very important aspect. So sometimes students resent it a little bit when we start bringing in things that they need to read, because reading is pretty difficult, right? Especially in English, where the words are not spelled phonetically, it's kind of hard. But the reality is, I've seen this from myself in language learning and from all of my students, that when we as tutors start incorporating reading, it actually leads to an improvement in their speaking and listening and writing capabilities too, because those 4 language skills are so closely connected. We just can't leave one of them out. So we have to kind of give that message to our students that this is an important part of their overall ability to be able to communicate in English. So thank you so much for bringing that out, Kayla.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
What I'm talking with this, we have a more advanced group of ESL students. It's considered conversation, but a lot of what we do is read articles and go through the reading of the articles and discuss the articles. And from each article, not only do we get the comprehension and understanding, but we get a lot of vocabulary, and we jump off into different topics where somebody is unsure of a particular skill. And so reading these articles has really, I think, has really improved not only their reading, but their comprehension of what's happening around them.
Thank you so much for that testimonial, Gail. When you're talking to me, you're certainly preaching to the choir. My classes were ostensibly conversation groups, but no, exactly. We read and then we discuss, because you have to have something to discuss, right? If it's too general, what are the students going to say? And if they don't have the vocabulary to discuss it, then how are they going to discuss it? So it's often that we do that through reading. So thank you so much. All right, moving on. Here's okay. So these are some of the common characteristics of our students. Some of them, as someone mentioned earlier, forgetting Olivette, I think, or someone said, first of all, some of our students have decoding problems, and it takes so long. Decoding, I mean phonics, sounding out the words. So if they can't sound out the words, or if they don't recognize the words as sight words, they're going to have a hard time reading. Some students have a lack of vocabulary, but these last 2, I think, are very, very important, and maybe you haven't thought about these before. Background knowledge is so important in reading because it's kind of like this. If you work in an office and your boss gives you a report and he says, please file this, right? And you have to put it somewhere. If you don't have a filing system, then it's very slow and you don't know what to do with that report. And if you don't have a filing system, it's really hard to bring the information from that report back up again, right? And this is the same thing with background knowledge. If our students are not already thinking about the topic of the reading, then when they start reading it, they don't have file drawers to put the new information into, and it'll just get lost and it won't be very good for them. So we have to build up students' background knowledge even before we start reading any text. And the last point is, many of our students have very little practice in critical thinking. Around the world, there are many different approaches to education. And here in our American system, we really emphasize critical thinking, at least I think we do, at least to some extent. But that's not true in other places in the world. In other places, including developed countries, the idea is the teacher stands in front of the students, gives information which the students are supposed to take in and memorize and then give back to the teacher. And very little processing of that information happens. Well, then we have a real problem with our approach as literacy volunteers. And that is, we want this to be relevant to our students. We want our lessons to be immediately applicable. We want them to be interactive. So that's not going to work for us at all. So sometimes what we have to do is we have to break a barrier that our students have in terms of expectations of what is going to happen in the lesson. So they may be just waiting for you to give them the answer. And then you don't give them the answer, they don't know what to do. So what I'd like to do today is show you that a sort of a sequence of question asking can build up those critical thinking skills in your students, make the whole process a little bit more fun and a little bit more accessible to them so that they can be successful. All right. Does that sound like something you're interested in?
Yes.
I sure hope so, because we're here for another hour and 45 minutes. So what do our assessments test? I think you would be I know I was surprised by this. So of course, they're going to test the meaning of individual words. And by the way, almost all of our reading assessment tests are multiple choice. So it is also important for us as tutors to give our students practice answering multiple choice questions, all right? So not just the oral questions that we're asking, but also to develop multiple choice questions for our students. So meaning of individual words. Now, meaning of words in context. And this is very interesting. I would like to give you an example. This was years ago, so it's no problem. It was on a former test of adult basic education. It's called TABE test, where there was a menu, and one of the items on the menu was Monster Burger, right? And the multiple choice question was, what does the word monster mean in this sentence? And the four answers were, the first one was very big. The next one was scary animal. The next one was very new. And the next one was, I can't remember. And what do you think the student, this was not an ESL student, but a native English speaker, what do you think he answered? He answered scary animal, because that's what a monster usually means, right? But within this context, it meant very big. So our students, sure, when my student was reading that, he didn't have any trouble understanding what Monster Burger was, but doing it in a multiple choice question threw him off. So our tests are kind of tricky that way. They also test relationship between ideas. Is it a comparison or is it a contrast? Is it the cause or is it the effect? What's the purpose? What is the chronology? What happened first, second, third, last? And very importantly, every single test asks students to differentiate between fact and opinion. And this is very difficult for our students. So I want to tell you right now that you should be asking fact and opinion questions with every single thing that you read. All right, so fact and opinion, super important. Inference is reading between the lines, category or detail. That means, you have like a paragraph and you've got the major idea of the paragraph. And what are the little supporting evidences that paragraph, that are within the paragraph? And this is very difficult for our students, non-native English speakers and native English speakers, to differentiate between what's a detail and what is a category. And so we really have to practice this very much with our students. And including, that's an important life skill, right? That's a very, very important life skill. If you're having a discussion with somebody, about, I don't know, why the YMCA is not opening until 10 o'clock, right? And then somebody starts giving you all these details and you say, yes, but why is that detail not true? Then they've missed some important issue. So it's very important to differentiate between category and detail. And then drawing conclusions, logical conclusions from the text. Right, what questions do you have about these? Now, let me ask you, do you explore all of these when you're looking at a text? Gail, I see you nodding. Yeah, that's great. Anybody else? Do you, I know I almost always do chronology. What happened first, what happened second, what happened third? Because I just challenge you, go to the newspaper after this workshop, read any article in the newspaper, and what you will find is the information presented, where it is presented in the article, is almost never in the same order that it happened in real life. And this throws our students off all the time. It really is very difficult for them. All right, well, let's move on. So I want to differentiate this. TABE stands for Test of Adult Basic Education, and then CLAS-E, that is for English learners, are the tests that almost all of our programs use for English language learners. And then there's a different one, TABE, only by itself, that we use for native English speakers. So this is a pretty common test that we use. I want to differentiate it now as we're looking at some examples between the lower levels and what kinds of questions you would ask and what kind of questions the assessments ask, as compared to the higher levels, 3 and 4. So of course, words and phrases in levels 1, it's almost only words, right? They'll show you a picture and then they'll have the 4 words and the student has to choose the word. So it's super simple. This word's appropriate associated information is what I was just talking about, the main idea and the supporting details. Which detail fits with which main idea? Identifying information and constructing meaning. What I find so interesting is that constructing meaning, i.e. critical thinking, is required even at levels 1 and 2. So let me give you an example right now. Here, I have a very simple picture of the hours that a restaurant is open. Okay, very simple. This is on levels 1 and 2. They would get a picture like this to read, right? And you can take a look at that right now. But then in terms of constructing meaning, the question might ask, can you eat at this restaurant on Monday? Anybody? Can you eat at this restaurant on Monday?
No, it's closed.
No, because it's closed. But anywhere on that little image, does it say you can eat at this restaurant on Monday? Is Monday even in that image? No. Okay, so look at the next question. Which day has the fewest hours?
Sunday, 12 to 6.
Sunday, right, only has 6 hours, okay? And then which statement is true? The restaurant is open Tuesday through Thursday until 8 o'clock, or the restaurant is open later on Friday and Saturday.
It's open later on Friday and Saturday.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
No.
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 What? Why?
Because Tuesday, oh yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should have marked the answers before I read it.
It doesn't open later. It
You
stays
mess with my
open
feeble
later.
brain.
Right, right.
But
do you
it
see-
always opens at 12.
Right.
Yeah, but it stays
So
open
that's
later.
irrelevant.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But I created these questions. These are pretty easy questions to create, right? Now, these are already higher level questions, but I brought these questions out just to show you that even at levels 1 and 2, our students are required to think critically about a text. And by golly, that is very difficult for our students. And you know why? It's because they don't really have much practice with answering questions, and they don't really understand the questions. So this is another reason why I would like to encourage you as tutors to incorporate not just the questions that are included in the textbooks that you are using, but to, always add 5 or 6 other questions so that your student can just get used to answering questions. And it's probably also a very good idea to have these questions written. Even if you read the question like I just did out loud to your student, it's probably a good idea that your student actually sees it as at the same time that they hear it. All right, great. Now, levels 3 and 4 are a little bit more involved. Morphemes and syntax. What I mean by a morpheme are those little bits of words that create meaning. So for example, if you have you in front of a word, then we know that that means not. That's like a morpheme. Of course, all the other parts are morphemes too, but that's just an example. And syntax is super important, especially when you're using connecting words. You know, after is different from when, is different from if, is different from although. So your students, the TABE-CLAS-E 3 and 4 are going to test to see if your students can put that together. Of course, words and phrases. Same meaning and opposite meaning. This is super difficult, but for those of you who are teaching native English speakers and advanced non-native English speakers, this same meaning, especially same meaning, rephrasing something that's written in the text is a stepping stone to being able to write by themselves. So it's a really good thing to include when you are reading. Just as an example, oh, this has the same meaning. Find the sentence that you think is the same meaning. Read this sentence real carefully. Is it the same meaning or is it the opposite meaning? Appropriate associated information we talked about, identifying information, constructing meaning. And the last thing is extend meaning, and that means drawing conclusions. Now, we did not do that, if you remember, in our example in levels 1 and 2, but in levels 3 and 4. So if you have a high intermediate or advanced student, maybe even an intermediate student, you should be incorporating more of these kinds of questions into your reading. So let's look at an example. Again, we're looking at the time of when this cafe is open. So just take a minute, if you would, right now to look carefully at this picture. All right, I'm going to ask you some questions now. By the way, this is not connected to the previous picture, so it's just all by itself. Are the hours on this graphic, are they different hours from what they were before?
Yes.
And
because
how do
they're
you know
labeled new.
that? Because they're
labeled
new.
new.
Very good, because they're new. Which day has the fewest hours?
Sunday and Saturday have the fewest.
Sunday and Saturday. Okay, good. And what can you expect? More hours on Wednesday or more hours on Saturday?
More hours on Saturday.
Why?
Because of the weekend hours.
And because if you look carefully, right, all of these are 3, right? That's pretty uniform, right? But maybe there's one, maybe they're going to extend it to 3 on Saturday, you know. Anyway, okay, great. And the last one is, what day would you like to go to the cafe and what time? So that is extending meaning, right? That is extending meaning.
Right.
Okay, what did you notice the difference between levels 1 and 2 and levels 3 or 4? Anybody?
Well, in the last one, your last question was making a connection with a student, because you asked, when would you prefer to go? The first sample was basically looking at the concrete and just getting factual information from it.
Great, thank you, thank you. Is your name Owner? I'm not sure who you are.
Oh yeah, I'm Owner. Somehow or another, I can't put. It's my first name is Maria Cortez Gallagher.
Okay.
That me is a problem in my not filling out. My husband and I share the computer, so,
okay. So
it's either going to be Daniel or Maria. So we left it Owner.
Okay, so, and this is for anybody. You can easily change your name on Zoom by right mouse clicking on your name at the bottom of your little screen. If you right mouse click, then it will say rename, and you can put Maria in there.
Do I go into the chat room or no?
No, just on your picture, your
Okay.
Zoom picture, your own Zoom picture.
But you know, I can't find my own picture, but I will note that.
Okay, well, it doesn't matter. Okay, doesn't matter. All right,
The host
so
can change it.
so we're going to go on.
Can I just say one thing before we continue?
Yes.
There's a misspelling in the bottom there, where extended hours. And when we read newspaper articles, my students are mostly fairly educated in their native languages. Misspellings and typos in newspapers, see it says extended hours.
Yeah.
My students often find those because spelling is really important for them in deciphering and not only decoding, but in deciphering the meaning of things. So they're having kind of a hard time letting go of the notion that, you know, authority is always right. And one of the things I try to work with them on is everyone makes mistakes. Newspapers always have typos. When things are written quickly or people are distracted, there's always typos. That is why read it and try to understand it, but don't believe it just because it's written there. But my students would be hung up on something like this typo, and they'd ask, is that really a word?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much.
So not to be critical, but the point is that having them start to feel comfortable with, if they think there's a mistake there, they might be right. And just because it's not their native language doesn't mean, you know, that they have to assume that everything they see written by native English speakers or people more advanced in English than they are is correct.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, so if
Thank
they
you
have
so
a
much.
doubt, press it.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I give my students practice in that all the time because I am a terrible speller. And to the extent that I tell them, okay, somebody figure out how to spell this, look it up in the dictionary and put it in the chat. So yeah, so I think it's so funny that that you pointed that out. I absolutely did not notice that, even not even a little bit.
I'm sure. And I know many people who, excuse me, they sort of half read and half understand. So,
Yeah.
but I notice pattern changes. That's just one of my things.
Yeah.
And when the pattern is wrong, I don't see necessarily what the misspelling is, but I can tell there's a mistake. So if I look, you know, I find it. And many of them do too, because they rely on the letters a lot, not just sort of the shape of the word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I like what Amy just said, because it's both real life application and it's critical thinking skills.
So that's not exactly what I'm using to mean critical thinking skills, but yeah, thank you. Yeah. That's a great comment. By the way, oh, just a second, Patricia, I put the link to our handouts in the chat again. So if you came onto our call late, you might not have seen that. And if you have not gone there yet, could you please click on that link and it'll give you all of our handouts. Yes, Patricia.
One of my student has an issue with she'll read a question or I'll ask her a question and her answer is totally different, does not have anything to do with the question that I've asked her. And I've told her every time when we finish a lesson, remember when you go to work, if you're asked a question, think about the question so you can answer the question you've been asked. But that's a real issue, real issue.
That's a huge issue. And I'm going to give you a little tip on that one, and that might be helpful. But yes, that is a big problem with our students. So just hold on tight for 1 second and you'll see what I'm going to suggest to maybe help your students overcome some of that approach. Okay, so let's move on here. This is my suggested approach to reading. And I'm going to unpack this in a minute, but first I just want to show you the way I approach a reading. First off, we've got to do some work before we even start reading. So I might send out a video, or I might send out a bunch of pictures if it's a very low-level student of items that are going to appear in the reading, so that I'm getting that background knowledge juiced up a little bit in my student. All right. Then I ask my students to read silently. Now, it may be that part of my preview is reading the text aloud. With very low-level students, I might do that. But with higher-level students, after the preview, I'm going to ask them to read the section silently. All right, then we are going to discuss the reading, and there's a very clear sequence that I would like that I'm going to suggest when we discuss it. Not general, but very scaffolded. You know, we're going to start with simple questions and build a foundation, and we're going to build up until those super high level critical thinking questions. But we don't start with well, what did you think about that reading? Don't ever start with that question, please. That is not a good opener, all right? And then the last one is, after we've done lots of discussion, the students will read the passage out loud. And then lastly, we should figure out some kind of an activity where the students can formalize their reaction to the reading. And I'm going to unpack all of these now for you. So what do I include in pre-reading? So first off, you want to pre-teach any vocabulary that you think the student might not know. Now, are you going to hit everything? No. Are you going to do every single word in the reading that your student may not know? No. Because one thing our students, especially the intermediate and the advanced students, have to learn is that they don't have to understand every single word. Okay, so, and if you got more than about 8 to 10 vocabulary words, then you've got too many words that your students are trying to learn. Okay, there's like a limit in how many new words a student can learn at one time. So you're going to pick out the words that are key words in your text, and you're going to pre-teach them. What do I mean by pre-teach? The way I do it is I pull the sentence directly out of the text. Now this is pre-reading, right? So the student hasn't even seen the text yet. Okay, so I'm just looking at one sentence from the text. I'll read that, we'll discuss the meaning, then I create one or two other sentences in a related topic, but that I have done myself. That way, the student has gotten not just the meaning of the vocabulary word, but also at least 3 examples of how that vocabulary word is used in a sentence correctly. Then with advanced students or high intermediate, I often will ask them to dictate a sentence to me, and I will type out that sentence. Anybody know why I'm doing it that way instead of saying, okay, type a sentence into the chat right now? Why would I ask my students to dictate that to me?
It's easier for them to think the ideas than to actually get them to come out their fingers.
Exactly, exactly. And they don't have to worry about spelling unless I'm the one who's typing it. And they don't have to, they don't have to worry too much about, the little words. I can kind of add those words in, depending upon if we've covered that already or not. And anyway, I do that. That's all under pre-teach the vocabulary. Then you should examine the overall structure of the text. Like, are there headings? So now they do look at the text, but tell them not to read it yet. Like, are there headings? Are there any bold words? A student must understand the title. So if there's a word in the title that your student doesn't know, you have to pre-teach that word, right? But examine the overall structure. Are there bullets? Just look at it, okay? Then access background knowledge. And like I said before, if your student doesn't have background knowledge, you have to add it. Somebody yesterday gave such a good example of this. Oh yeah, she thought it would be great to read The Little Mermaid with her students. This is an advanced student. Read The Little Mermaid with her student, only to discover her student, who's from a South American country, had no idea what a mermaid was. So, from the get-go, there's not going to be any understanding that goes on. So you've got to build the background knowledge if it's not already there, or access what your student already knows. And then the last point in the pre-reading is to ask your student to articulate 1 or 2 questions that they think will be answered by the text. Now, I want to just bring out your own background knowledge right now. When you are flipping through, the internet and deciding what articles to read in the news. I mean, I do this probably every day, you know, they give you the title and then they give you the first couple of lines. The way I make choices is I say, I wonder if this article is going to tell me whether the vaccine is safe, right? Or I wonder if this article is going to include the text of Biden's speech, or I wonder if this article is going to show a trend in business, right? We ask questions before we start reading, right? But our students don't have that same kind of practice if they haven't done critical thinking in their own educational background. So we're going to ask them to write down, articulate, either you can write it for them if they're lower level students, or if they're higher level students, ask them to write the questions that they think might be answered by the text. Now, do these questions need to be perfect? Do they need to be grammatically perfect? No, they don't, because these are just notes that the student is giving to him or herself. So, you know, don't be evaluating these questions. Don't get, you know, sidetracked by doing that. These questions are for them and for their thinking. What questions do you have about pre-reading as I've presented it? Anything new there? Was there anything there that you hadn't thought of doing before? Anybody? Yeah.
Nothing new, except it's really helpful to have it all kind of refreshed. And how do you do all of that online? Do you assign some of it for them to do before meeting? Because meeting online is so much more restrictive than meeting in person.
Yeah. So with very low level students, I actually copy the text. I always use PowerPoint, just like I'm using with you right now, because only in PowerPoint can I get the text big enough for the students to see. Some of our students are using telephones. They're not using computers.
Yeah.
So I will actually just do slide by slide on a PowerPoint, and I just go through it just like I'm doing with you.
Okay, so it's all in class. You don't expect them to do any of that vocabulary review on their own beforehand?
Not usually.
Okay.
Especially not with the beginning student.
Right.
Yeah, with the advanced class, sometimes. Sometimes with the advanced class, and with the high intermediate class, it's a little bit hit or miss. So, okay, thank you for that question. Anybody else? Amy, I love your questions. I just would like to give a bunch of people chances. So I'm gonna let other people talk, but thank you so much for your questions. Anybody else?
I like the idea for teaching new words to, you know, pull the sentence that it's in out of the text and then provide 2 or 3 more examples of the word. I think that's something that I often forget to, with my very basic student, to like warn him about words that are coming up. So I like that idea.
Okay, thank you very much. And plus, remember, our students need to manipulate these words like 100 times before it becomes part of their active vocabulary. So you're just giving them some of that practice from the get-go. All right, thank you so much. All right, let's keep on going to what we do next. And we already talked about that. And so I want to just look at this, and we're going to do the pre-reading. All right. So here's a picture. The title is Max Works Hard. Okay. I would probably say Max is the name of a person. That's his name. Many of our students might not know that that's a name. It's a man's name. Work, I think all my students are going to know. Hard, I might preview that. Then I might ask, you know, have you done any of these jobs? Do you know what the names of these jobs are? What do you think in this? So I'm going to use my annotation tool. What do you think this person is doing? Anybody? What's that person doing? Anybody know?
Looks like she's working on an assembly line, packing a box.
Packing boxes.
Yeah, so packing. And then what I might do in this case, because we're looking at the picture, right? I'll say, okay, so she's packing, right? Okay, packing, right? And where do you think, you said assembly line, can you, do you?
Amazon.
Amazon, right, Amazon, and it might be an Amazon warehouse, right? It might be an Amazon warehouse. Have you ever worked in an Amazon warehouse? No. Okay. All right, great. Well, thanks for that. And what do you think this next person is doing? What's he doing? What do you think the name of his job is?
Custodian.
Custodian. Very good. He's a custodian. And let's look at how that, what does that word look like? Okay. Custodian, I hope, is spelled like this. Custodian. 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 So this word is custodian. Custodian. Where does it look like he's working?
At a school.
In a school.
I think he's in a school, right? I think he's in a school. Very good. And how about this last guy here? What about him? Where is he working?
At an office.
He's working in an office. Okay. All right. Which one of these pictures, which one of these jobs do you think is the hardest?
Custodian.
Which one?
The custodian.
Oh, maybe. Yeah. Why do you think that?
Maybe not doing the most pleasant work. The conditions may not be as pleasant as working in an office.
Yep. Do you think that all of these people have to work hard?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's just go through these words again. This word is packing. Packing. What is this word?
Packing.
Packing. This word is Amazon. Amazon. What is this word?
Amazon.
What is this word is warehouse. Warehouse. What is this word?
Warehouse.
Good. This word is custodian. Custodian. What?
Custodian.
Okay. So you guys get the idea. All right. So you have to do all of those things that you learned in tutor training, right? So I'm not supplanting any of those things. All right. Now the students are going to read silently. Okay. So you're going to divide the text into meaningful sections. Encourage the student to circle or underline the pre-taught vocabulary. Highlight or underline information that answers their questions. Highlight repeated information. Ask the students to write new questions and confirm or change predictions. So you might have to walk them through this the first couple of times they do it. Okay. But this is what you want them to do while they're reading silently. And here it is. So go ahead and read that silently. Okay. So right off, what is something that you see about this text? What do you see a lot in this text?
The idea of the chronology, what happened first and then what happened next and so forth.
Dates.
You see, you see years, you see these big numbers, right? You see these big numbers. So what does that tell you? That probably the text is about history.
The history of his work.
Right, right. And there's another word in here that helps you see that it's talking about one thing happened and then the next thing happened. Can you show the word first? Exactly. The word first. Right. Okay. Do you see a word that we pre-taught? Do you see one? Do you see a word there?
Packager.
Pack. We see pack, right? Pack or package. So now let's split up that word, okay? Let's split that word up. So we already had packing. Remember packing? Okay. We had packing. Now we've got this word packager. So we've got P-A-C-K. That's the same, right? And then we have A-G-E, A-G-E, and then we have R. So we have packager. So this package, do you know what a package is? That's that thing that you pack, right? So we know that word now. That's a new word, package. Package. And when you add the R, that means a person, right? So now we know a packager is the person who does the packing. Yeah, great. All right, you can see I actually did that recently with my, just breaking down a word like that with my advanced students. I did it with my advanced students and they were thrilled. They said, I've never thought of that before, that you could split the words up. So it's a great thing to do. All right, so great. What do you think? So if the first thing Max did was he worked, let's see, when did Max start working?
1996.
Good. And how old was he?
16.
16. And what happened right before he turned 16 that meant he could start working?
He took an exam.
His high school exam.
Right. He took his high school exam. Very good. Okay. And then next, where did he work?
In a factory.
In a factory. Okay. And what did he do?
He was a packager.
He was, okay. And what was the work that he had to do as a packager?
Packing.
Packing. And what does that mean?
And put the boxes on the truck.
Right. Put stuff in the boxes and put the boxes on the truck. And how long did he work at that job?
4 years.
4 years. Very good. Okay. Now, what do you think? There's more to this story. What do you think is going to come next?
His next job.
His next job. Okay. And if you think about our pictures that we looked at earlier, can you predict what his next job might be?
Custodian.
I bet. Maybe. Let's write that down. Will he be a custodian next? All right. Great. All right. Let me clear my annotations and let's read the rest of the story. All right. Do you see any words there that we practiced earlier?
Custodian.
Custodian. Good. Mm-hmm.
Office. Office.
Office. Good. How about school?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. We wrote school. Okay. All right. Great. What was his job after he finished? I can't even remember. What did he do before?
He left the warehouse.
He left the
He was
warehouse.
a packer in a warehouse.
Yeah, because anybody who's
factory.
done that job for Amazon knows that that's really a hard job. So, okay, so he was, what's his next job?
A custodian.
What
In
did
a
he
school.
do? So where was he?
In a school.
In school.
And what did he do?
He fixed the toilets and the lights. He cleaned.
Took out the trash.
Took out the trash. Okay, now maybe some of those words are new to you, but let's go back and look at our picture. Okay, so maybe take out the trash. Do you see right? Oopsie, sorry. So I would go back to the picture. You guys get the point. All right. And this, okay, now we're discussing the reading. Did you see what I did? I started out with very simple questions. Who, what, when, where. It goes really fast for your student and they feel like they can do something. That's very confidence building for them, okay? Then I moved into more difficult questions. Well, what happened first and second? What happened before this and what happened after that? How? I was checking to see, you know, if they could put some of these things together. I actually had them circle first, and then I would have gone on to next and then, right? So that they can see those things in the reading, okay? And then, you know, at the very end, we didn't have enough time to do this because I want to give you guys a chance to do it yourself, is I might have asked, well, which one do you think was the better job? And I would say, you know, do you think that there was any reason why he started as a picker packer and then he became a custodian and then he started working in an office? Do you think there were things that made that happen or made that way of improving his life? What do you think he had to do to get those jobs? Anyway, you ask those questions. So by the way, even you and I, right now, we've already spent like 10 minutes on this reading, just talking about it, right? The student has not yet read anything out loud, right? So the student has had a chance to see words. They've had a chance to answer questions. They've had a chance to dictate sentences to you. Now, okay, one more step. We're ask the students to share the questions that they wrote from the get-go and see if the other students, if you're teaching more than one student at a time, ask the other students if they can answer the questions. So that's a way of you stepping back and letting the students take over more of what's going on. And then make new predictions. All right, now it's time for the students to read aloud. Do you see that by this point, the students have seen these words, they've circled them, they've looked carefully at the words for meaning, they know what the meaning is of the whole text. So at this point, the students are ready to read aloud. And this is what I was going to, I think it was Olivetta that brought up the question about, or no, I'm sorry, it was somebody else, of students being anxious to read aloud. They're so anxious about it. But by doing all this pre-work, all this discussion, now that has tapped down, oh, it was you, Patricia, that has tapped down the anxiety in the students. They've heard me read the sentences. They've heard each other talk about them. Now they're ready. You can ask for volunteers for sure. Always ask for volunteers. But if somebody doesn't volunteer, they should know that they're not going to get off the hook, right? So that's this, you know, this feeling that we have to help our students, you know, we're not just going to let them only do what they want to do. That's why when we talk about student-centered, it's not always student-guided. Sometimes the tutor has to guide, right? But it still can be student-centered. And why do we check for fluency? Why do we even bother with this step if we for sure got meaning out of the text already? Anybody?
An indication of their level of understanding, right?
Yes. Yes. By how they read it, you can check whether they've really understood the words that they're saying out loud. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kayla. Anything else? Reading can often be a jumping off place for grammar or for grammar section or for, excuse me, a pronunciation section. So in having your students read out loud, you can make notes to yourself about something else that you want to teach later on. All right, great. Now there is another section if we're really teaching reading, and that's the after reading. Now notice up to now, we've really been text-based, right? We have really been, even though we've said, have you ever done something like this? We're helping them to relate to the text, but we haven't really asked them yet to respond to the text. Well, now in the after reading section, that's where we're going to get to it. So determine what was the assertion and what was the supporting evidence. So if you were to try to figure out a main idea of this text, what would that be? What do you think the main idea of Max works hard is?
That Max works hard.
The progress that Max has made over the years.
Right, the progress. Max works hard, and as a result, he's made progress over the years. Very good. And what is the supporting evidence?
The improvement in his jobs, the types of jobs that he has grown into.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I might even start with, well, first he got his high school equivalency, right?
Yeah.
And then he kept on going up until now he's working in an office, right? So great. What was fact and opinion? Can you pull out an opinion?
Which job is the hardest?
Which job is the hardest? That's an opinion. Mm-hmm. Or even Max works hard is an opinion, right? That's an opinion. And what is a fact? The fact is that he got his high school diploma, that he worked as a picker packer, that he worked as a custodian. Now he works in an office. Good. Then now after all of this, what was the author's purpose? Just to maybe to say, you can do this too if you work hard. Maybe. Okay. And then only now do we come to the point of let the students agree or disagree. And this is super. Do any of you teach native English speakers? Okay,
I do.
Thank you. This is really, really important to teach your students to be patient. Okay? All too often, teachers in the past, and I have been guilty just like everybody else, okay, say, you read something and you say, well, do you think that, what do you think about that? Do you think that that's true? Do you think that you can get an office job if you work hard? And the students don't have any evidence to support, because you haven't done the work yet. They don't have any evidence to support it. And that's when you get those answers that seem like they're totally off topic. So do you agree with the author and say, well, I've worked as a packer, and you're going, that's not what I asked you, But because you've gone through this series of questions where they had to have the discipline to answer the question that was asked, now they're ready to give their own opinion. And it's good for students to give their own opinion about stuff. It's just that they shouldn't give their own opinion from the get-go. I'm really pretty strident about that one. And then articulate the main idea. I find that figuring out the main idea, it's pretty easy on this one, but figuring out main idea, I think, is super difficult. So for me, that would always be the last thing that I did. Yeah. All right.
It's because it's kind of like if you don't make them go through the steps of pulling out the evidence from the text, they could just, when they give their opinion, they could just ignore the text entirely. They could,
Exactly.
it'd be like as if they hadn't even read it.
Exactly. Exactly. So help them to see that. So, and what do I mean by formalizing their reactions? Well, you can formalize it through a written activity, or you can formalize it through an oral activity. And these are in order of difficulty. So if you've got a basic student, their written reaction might just be to make a list, right? You know, packager, custodian, office worker. Might be. That might be. Okay. Have them take their notes and look at their notes and maybe write the notes out in sentences. Filling in tables. This is such a great way to help your students figure out that main idea in detail. Like you might create a table for your student where you had 1996, 96 to 2000, 2000 to 2007, and now. And then you have to have them fill in, like on the side, name of occupation, place of work, and what you did, right? And then they fill that in. That helps your student logically figure out how those bits of information fit in the text. Summarize is pretty difficult. I would only start using summarization with intermediate, high intermediate, or advanced students. Prose writing would be, I want you to write a paragraph about the jobs that you have had in your past, where you would write a very similar story to Max's story, but with your own, what's happened in your own life. And then creative writing could be anything. So that's in order of difficulty. In terms of oral, you could have them summarize. You could have them share their ideas with their own ideas with other people is more difficult because they have to also understand what the other person says. And then give a speech. You know, if we said that the main idea was hard work is going to get you forward in life, you could have them give a speech about how you can get forward in life, right? A 1 or 2 minute speech. All right. What questions do you have about this approach? This approach to reading and questioning.
At what point, and I apologize that I'm not on, I don't know why it came up like this. I have 2 Zoom accounts and I'm not coming up on the personal account. In any case, at what point, you mentioned that you as the tutor read the selection aloud to them. At what point do you do that?
Probably in the pre-reading time.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the question.
Catherine, doesn't this whole process take forever?
So, you know, it takes quite a long time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but you know what? It's so active. So, you know, most people have, I'm going to be honest with you. With my beginning student, my tutoring sessions are actually quite short. Mm-hmm. With my beginning student, my tutoring sessions are 1 hour and 15 minutes or 1 hour and a half. With my advanced students, it's not unusual for us to go, you know, 2 hours and 15 minutes or 2.5 hours. Oh my God. It's so interactive, and it usually only stops because I say, it's time for us to stop now. You know.
I definitely see the value of going about this in this very thorough manner. I'm just wondering if I have time in my class to actually do it right.
How long is your class?
My current class, that's one-on-one with 2 students at the same time, is 1 hour, and I'm thinking maybe that's too short for this.
Well, yeah. So then don't forget that good teaching always reviews. You always start with your review of what you taught before, a preview of what you're going to teach now, a teaching moment, and then a preview of their homework, right? And so what happens is, Kayla, you can take one text, and depending upon the length of the text, it might take you 3 or 4 sessions to do the whole text.
Okay, fair enough. Yep,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. And each time then, is there a whole week between lessons?
Yes, there is.
Oh, that's really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, what I do is I try to give my students something that they have to turn into me during the week, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they have to somehow touch the lesson in the middle of that week. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for them to remember it the following week.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. And I'm also open to increasing the length of the session. I may have to coordinate with the both of them, but it's possible. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. So one other thing I wanted to talk about is even in the examples I gave.
They asked me is, which of the following states does Norbert Bialskorsky currently live or own property?
Somebody, Lisa, could you mute yourself? I think something's going on there. Okay, so don't always think in terms of prose text. You know, like I just showed you this 4-paragraph text. But if you remember, before that, we were looking at you know, flyers or tables or advertisements. Graphs are super important for our high beginning and advanced students. Filling out forms and so that they can understand the relationships between the ideas on the form and instructions. All right, so now, this is just a real quick way of formalizing all the stuff that I just told you. SQ3R stands for survey, question, read, write, review. And this is super important for any student who has the goal of entering into higher education. But if you remember, the survey was the pre-reading, right? The question was not only writing their own questions to predict what's going on, but to write questions as they go along. Then they're going to read, and then they're going to write the answers to their questions or the answers to your questions, and then they're going to review it all again. That's what happens when you have them read aloud and then you ask those post-reading questions. SQ3R. I've put both an example and a template in the handouts. I don't think we will. I would much rather have you work with the materials in your breakout rooms than look at this SQ3R, but I just want to tell you that they are there. If you look at the SQ3R example and open it up right now, okay, I'm going to do that myself. Okay, and let me just get there. There's 2 ones. One's called SQ3R template and SQ3R example. The example it takes a text and just fills it out for you so you can see it. You know, I picked out the vocabulary that I would pre-teach. Yeah, several of you are looking at it right now. I can see. And, you know, who, what, when, where questions, all of these factor opinion. So the students would fill that out themselves. You would give the student the text in this format so that they could write these answers into the format. If it helps you, great. It's a bit cumbersome, and I'm not going to lie about that. But probably for most of our literacy students, this is not necessary, but if you are having a student who is trying to get into classes at the community college, then they really do need to learn how to do this level of note-taking. All it is a note-taking. Yes?
How do you get to the handouts? Because I went on the chat and nothing happened. I put my cursor on what you had given us.
And you click it.
I click it, okay.
Yep, that link, you have to click on the link.
Okay.
Okay, and then you see a list of files there, and one of them says SQ3R example.
Oh, geez.
Catherine?
Zoom interrupted shutdown. Nope. No. In
Patricia,
fact,
I'll tell you what, Patricia, oh, you are going to need to get there. Let me share my screen. All right. When you click on the link, it should look like this, right? When you click on the link, you should get this.
everything is gone.
Everything is gone. That's because I shared my screen. But the reason why I want you to get there is because in a minute I'm going to break you out into breakout rooms, and you can see things like banana nut bread recipe, stop spread of germs. You're going to see spring break flyer. And so I'm going to split you up into groups to start manipulating these materials and see what you come up with. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes in groups to do that. Who is having trouble getting to this spot? Okay, let me stop my share. Okay, once again, let's try it one more time. I'm going to put it, if everyone bears with me. Here's the link again. Those of you who are having trouble, it's in the chat. Just open chat and click on the link.
I don't even have the chat.
It's okay. Go down to the bottom of your screen and see the little Zoom icon.
I have the gallery, and then I have, when you turn on your computer and the picture you get.
Oh yeah. So take your mouse and just hover near the bottom of the gallery.
Okay.
Hover near the bottom of the gallery.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see chat.
No, I mean, I know where chat is, but what I have is, when you turn on your computer and you get that screen.
Oh, yes. So at the very bottom, you have to click on the little, but you said you can see the gallery, right? Do you see the gallery?
What are you supposed to click on in chat? I don't see anything that says a link.
It
has things you can, what?
It's just blue and underlined. It's blue and underlined. And it's from
right. Yeah, I see that. So click on that.
See
yes,
the
please.
Gallery.
Yeah, that's right. This happens with our students, right? We have to walk our students through things too, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Now
I got you back.
Great. Okay. All right. Wonderful.
So click on the ones I want.
In a minute, I'm going to tell you which ones. I'm going to tell you that. Just hold off for a minute. Okay. Just hold off for a minute. Now, when I share my screen, that's going to disappear. But when I stop the share, it's going to come back again. So don't worry. All right. All right. So I'm going to share my screen again. All right. Now, you're going to look at these sample texts. And Nicole has made some breakout rooms. What's going to happen is she's already figured out which breakout room you should go into. All right.
Catherine?
Yes.
Okay, I wrote a couple times. Not everyone has given me their levels. I've chatted with them just one-on-one, and I've been sending it to everybody. If you have not given me your level, please put that into the chat box now so I can finish up the break rooms.
Either that or just put people in break rooms. That's fine too. That's fine too. Okay, I'm going to assign a sample text. And then I want you to discuss what you would do to survey this article, what you would ask students to elicit a prediction, and what vocabulary you might pre-teach. So we're only doing the pre-teaching right now, okay? And then we're going to come back and unpack that, and then I'm going to let you go in again, and we're going to find out the rest of it, the during reading and the other things. All right, is that clear? Now I'm going to encourage you, because as soon as I've stopped this share, it's going to disappear. So I encourage you to take out your phones right now, okay? And I encourage you to take a picture. Take a picture of this screen. I don't know if you've ever done that before, but it's a super easy way. And that way you will have the questions that I want you to talk about in your breakout room. And that's another thing that you can tell your students, right? If they are looking at something that you're doing together and they want a copy of it afterwards, just tell them to get out their phones and take a picture of the screen, right? And somebody asked if these handouts would be available after the conference, and the answer is yes. You have the link, you have the shared link, and that link will remain live for the foreseeable future. All right, so great. I'm going to stop the share. All right, and here you are. If you are a beginner, I want you to do the spring break flyer. If you are in the high beginner, you're going to do the COVID-19 prevention. And if you are intermediate, you're going to do banana bread. And if you are advanced, I want you to do the YMCA flyer. Okay, so group number 1 is going to do the spring break flyer. Group number 2 is going to do COVID-19 prevention. Group number 3 is going to do banana bread. And group number 4 is going to do the YMCA. All right? All right, so Nicole is going to put you into your breakout rooms. You're going to get a little pop-up is going to happen, and you click on join the breakout room. All right, everybody, I'll see you in a few minutes. I'm going to give you 10 minutes to work on this, 10 minutes. Wendy, there should be a little button, yep, button that says join breakout room. No? Nicole, did Wendy get in a breakout room?
Yeah, everyone else that was in her group is in there except for her. Let's see.
JK is a repeat, so we don't have to worry about that one.
Okay, let me move Wendy to a different room and see if that works. Let's see.
Wendy, we're working on it, okay? We're working on it. We're going to get you in a room. Patricia?
I was put in the wrong breakout room. I should be in spring break.
Okay, that's number, can you, Nicole, when you get a chance, can you put Patricia in number 1?
Sure.
Okay, and I still don't have materials, so I can go to the chat and try again.
Yeah. Sorry, maybe somebody else can walk you through it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Patricia.
Well,
JK is a repeat. Kathleen Reese is not joined. We moved Patricia. Lady, are you having an issue?
I'm sorry, Nicole, were you able to put Patricia in group 1? Were you able to change her?
I moved her.
But when I went,
Patricia, do you see a little button that says join the breakout room?
no, I did before.
It's probably behind the other buttons. So if you minimize some of your stuff, you'll be able to find it.
I have leave. I had it before when I joined the last breakout room.
Oh, okay. Oh no, don't hit leave. That'll knock you out.
I'll leave
Yeah,
you.
don't do that one. Don't do that one.
And also when I went into the chat, there was nothing there.
There's nothing in the chat?
Zoom group chat.
Oh, Zoom group chat. You're still in a. All right.
Okay, Patricia.
Yes.
I'm going to move you into the intermediate. Okay, just go in, just join that room, and then I'm going to join you into the beginners.
Okay.
Okay, you're in a limbo right now, so I'm going to move you and then move you to where you need to be. Okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Did you get that one for the intermediate, the invite?
No.
I think it's behind. Can you minimize, you know, the little thing that looks like a hyphen at the very top of your.
All I have are gallery view and exit full screen.
Exit full screen. That's the deal. Exit full screen.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what's going on. Okay. Now minimize that or move it around. It's behind that's for you too, Wendy, I think. Exit full screen. Oh, I can't.
Oh, I see. It's at the bottom.
There you go.
Breakout room. Okay.
Yay, I got it. Yay. Maybe it's at the bottom, Wendy. At the bottom.
Okay, so Patricia, all right, now let me move Patricia back to the beginner. Okay, Patricia is where she needs to be.
Wendy, how about if you and I just talk? You want to unmute yourself?
Are you having an issue?
I'm sorry?
Mercy? Is that
Oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't get on. I couldn't access my microphone, and then I had to go back in my settings. It wasn't allowing me to talk.
Okay, I'll just throw you into a room. I'll put you back in a room now. Which room would you like to be in?
Well, I really am a math teacher, but there were a lot of questions, you know, situational questions in math. So I thought maybe this would be a good thing for me to take. So
I'm going to put you into the advanced class because Catherine, we didn't have any advanced for this. So anyone who came through as ABE, I put them in the advanced. So Mercy, I'm going to move you into that room. Okay.
All right, fine. Thank you.
Nicole, what one am I supposed to be in?
Give me 1 second.
What's the level of your student, Wendy?
Intermediate. So that was what?
Intermediate?
Mm-hmm.
Would have been intermediate. Okay, give me a second.
How about banana bread? Yeah.
Yep. All right. I sent you an invite to the intermediate room.
Okay, did you get an invitation there, Wendy?
So
join the breakout room?
No.
Are you in full screen?
So do I go to the banana bread first?
Yes.
Okay.
You can at least look at the banana bread and think for yourself, you know, what questions would you ask? What vocabulary would you pre-teach? What questions would you ask to make predictions?
Okay.
Sorry, we weren't able to get you in a room. People have about, I think we started right at 11:28. Yeah, so they only have about 3 more minutes. Can you send actually, as a co-host, I don't have that permission. So that's a good thing to know.
I can broadcast a message. What would you like me to say?
Yeah, just say 2 more minutes. And I can't join this is another odd thing. I can't join the breakout rooms, which I usually do. Just, it's good to know something, you know, that when you're not the person who owns the meeting. Yeah, the meeting. Yeah. Then yeah, it's something, yeah, interesting. Because I do this all the time when I do tutor training. Yeah, I'm putting people in breakout rooms. I'm saying, oh, this is what you should be doing, you know, you know, like this.
Catherine, actually, Nicole can make you the host. I'm so sorry, I'm on a call right now.
Oh.
Nicole can make you a host, yeah, and you can go into the breakout rooms.
She said she made me a co-host, and
no, she can make you a host.
Oh. You can make me a host.
I can make you a host, but if I make you a host, then I wouldn't be able to do the breakout rooms, and that's what we needed me to be able to do for you today.
Oh, only one person can do the breakout rooms. Oh, well, okay, that's good for me to know. Okay. All right. Thanks, Joe.
Sorry, I'm still on a call. Yeah.
That's all right.
And I'm so sorry I didn't mute myself earlier. Really, really.
That's all right. Okay, so since now it's 11:27, if you hit close the breakout rooms, it gives them 60 seconds to end. So Nicole, if you would go ahead and close the breakout rooms. Interesting. Very interesting. Unfortunately, this recording is getting all of that, all of this. Sorry, recording.
Okay, 30 seconds.
Okay. Oh.
Breakout room's gone.
Oh
dear.
Like Alice in Wonderland here.
What happened? What happened? It was, hey, Amy.
Got the breakout room.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Did the breakout, did I hear somebody say the breakout rooms didn't work?
No, it just said it's done.
It was fine.
It's just gone. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's where the host has all this power. Yeah, to stop the breakout rooms. Yeah. All right, I'm going to have to ask you everybody to remute yourselves. All right. So how was it? All right. Yeah. Were you? Yes. Yeah. Good. So I really like the spring break. But we've already done something that was really pretty easy. So maybe we shouldn't do spring break after all. Hold on just a second. Let me go back and how about the stop this COVID prevention? Okay, that was the high beginner. All right. Who was in that group? COVID prevention? Somebody want to share what let me just show everybody what they were looking at. All right, so this is what they were looking at, COVID-19 prevention. All right, so what did you start off with as vocabulary that you might, what would you do to survey this? In other words, what would you do pre-reading for this? You know, if it were me and it were, I might even do TPR. I might even bring in soap and I say, okay, we're all washing our hands. And then what are you doing? We're washing our hands. Okay, we're sanitizing, right? We're sanitizing. We're keeping distant. We're keeping distant. Or here's a face mask. I put a face mask on. I would do that. Stay at home and coughing. I might do that as a TPR even before starting this, right? But the group, somebody in the group, you want to share what you decided to do with this as a survey? What questions did you ask? Nobody. All right, anybody? What might you ask?
I would probably start asking them with what things they know. What are, if they're a beginner, tell me what you know, and that way I can start. I have an idea of how much language they actually have.
Exactly, exactly. Start off asking them, what are you already doing to prevent the spread of COVID? You know, what have you seen on TV? What are you doing? And then they might go, mask, and say, oh, so you wear a face mask, okay? This is all oral, right? This is all oral. And they might not, you might not have even shown them this yet. And then they might say, oh, I have to stand away from my from the other people. Okay, so you're avoiding close. So you're saying these words even depending upon what they say. Okay.
I want to start with the word prevention.
I would also start with the word, I would definitely pre-teach that word, prevention. Yeah, yeah.
Also make the connection with often and constantly.
Ah, often and constantly. Great. What is the difference there between those two words? That might be hard for a high beginner. That might be difficult for a high beginner.
I don't know that I would contrast so much as just get the idea across that something they need to do a lot.
Okay.
I wouldn't get into anything too, too advanced like that, but just to tie in that in those two particular circles, they're reminding them of something they need to do.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Great, great, great. And let's go to the next one. All right. The banana bread recipe. I love this. There's so much text in this, right? But it's it's intermediate. You know,
there was a lot of vocabulary that we found. So we decided we might need to teach this lesson in two parts, in two separate lessons to break up the vocabulary. But we came up with lots of questions like, have you ever eaten this food before?
Yep.
If you didn't want to make it yourself, would there be a place that you could buy this type of food?
Fantastic.
What part of the meal would this food be for? Would it be
wonderful.
An appetizer, a main dish, or a dessert? Yeah, we came up with lots of stuff for this lesson.
Great,
which
great.
was surprising, really.
Yeah, and you haven't even, this is just the pre-teaching.
Yes.
This isn't even after they've read it. Now, the next step, I'm going to break you up go back into your breakout rooms. And now I want you to come up with a series of questions. And they need to go from simple questions to more difficult questions to finally the opinion and fact and opinion and all those things. I want you to make at least 6 or 7 questions in your groups, and they should be in order of difficulty. All right, is that clear, everybody? Once you go back into your same groups, I want you to use the same material, but these are going to be the questions that you ask the student after the student has read it silently. These are your quote unquote during reading comprehension questions. All right. Okay, Nicole, if you could let people go back into their breakout rooms, that would be great. Again, this time, since it's 11:46 and it's very concrete, I'm only going to give you 5 minutes. So write down those questions quick. She did it. Wendy did it. Yay. Yay. Go ahead and join your breakout room.
I can't get into the chat room.
Is that Janet?
Oh, owner, it's owner again. I can't get into the breakout room. I don't know how.
Okay, hold on one second.
Yeah, might be at the bottom.
There we go. I sent it to you again.
I'm in, you put me in intermediate. I was really actually in the beginner.
Oh.
There you go.
Okay.
I think maybe Letty is.
There we go.
Not there. I think maybe Letty is not there.
Oh,
Lady.
okay.
Yeah.
Lady.
Okay. What do you think so far, Nicole?
Great workshop.
Oh, thank you.
And they're very engaged in it, which is great. When they come back, would you like me to share the link after they come back?
I just have, what were the take-home messages, and yeah, and then you can share the link. Yeah.
Perfect. Very good.
I think. Let me just make sure that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, lady's there, but she's driving.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Oh, am I sharing? I didn't want to share. I didn't want to. Oh, so they could get into the breakout rooms even though I was sharing. Oh. Sometimes you can't see as much when you're sharing. It's a little harder to do things.
Hi, Roseanne. Did you need help getting into a room?
Oh, okay, Roseanne. Sorry. It's still a little shaky. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is being recorded.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to get the recording of it.
I wouldn't worry, Roseanne. I just go ahead and go on in. You can just listen to what the other people are saying.
That is some strong wind today, though. It's supposed to get worse.
I think it's worse where you are, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. Okay, let's give them the 1-minute warning.
Okay.
Was there anybody in the advanced?
It was only nobody for advanced. They just said, if they said ABE or ASE, I put them into the advanced.
Yeah, ASE should definitely. Although, yeah, sometimes people are in ASE and have pretty low skills. Yeah.
The beginner and the intermediate were pretty much spot on. I believe it was 11 for each, 11 or 12 for each group.
Mm-hmm. How many people were there altogether?
47.
Oh my gosh.
Fabulous job.
Yeah, unfortunately though, you know, because there's so much interaction in my workshops, it's really hard with that many people. Yeah, it's just really. And I always make them that way because that's really when you learn stuff, you know.
Yeah, this was our first time using Hoova. So when we put caps on things, it was telling people to sign in through their phone. So even though there was a cap, they were still giving them an in.
Yeah.
So that's why we had to uncap it, because it's easier to use it through the web browser than through the phone.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I totally understand that.
All right, should I let them back in now?
Yeah.
All right, ready? They get their 60 seconds.
I thought you said that already.
I sent the
Ooh.
message for a 1 minute.
I clicked the thing because I thought it said we had to go back. Ooh.
That's
Good.
okay.
Yeah,
they're
no,
coming
that's
back in now.
fantastic. Everybody is. Everybody is. Yeah.
30 seconds.
All right. Let's see. Group number 1, spring break. Give me 3 of your questions. Who was in group number 1?
They're just starting to come in now. They have 20 seconds to get back in the room.
Oh, I see. So they're still talking.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm watching the countdown.
Oh,
10
okay.
seconds.
9, 8.
And then they're all just going to appear.
It's good to see you, Kathy. Good to
Hi,
see you again.
Catherine.
Yeah.
Did you cut your hair?
I did a little bit. Yeah.
It looks nice.
Thanks. Thanks. Thanks.
All right, here we go.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back. So group number 1, can you share 3 of your questions? Yeah, Barbara.
Okay. Which 2 ingredients would you need to use first? You know, that was one of them.
Okay.
Okay.
This is
And like
banana bread?
how many bananas are in this recipe? How many eggs are in this recipe?
Yes, yes, good. I would put that one first and then the next one.
Okay. And then a later question would be, how long does the bread have to stay in the oven?
Okay.
You have to add both components to get like an hour.
Yes. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Group number 1. Group number 2. Group number 2, give me 3 of your questions. Somebody.
Not sure which group number 2.
Yeah, what is the topic, Catherine?
Okay, group number 2. Oh,
2
gosh.
was the intermediate.
Actually, I thought, okay, so whoever did the COVID-19 prevention, what were your 3 questions? COVID-19 prevention? Okay, well, we're just about to run out of time. So how did that feel, making those questions? Was it pretty easy to go from super simple questions to a little bit more difficult to more and more difficult? Anybody have any challenges, Kathy?
I think, well, especially because we had a group of people brainstorming, it kind of flowed pretty easily.
I mean, I think it's subjective, but I mean, I think we got to where we needed to go, but it's subjective. What my easy might be, your hard. So.
Okay.
And a
It's
little
all
bit
from the
of
reference
questions on, pre-reading questions versus post-reading questions.
Yeah.
Some discussion on that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right, great.
But it was helpful to focus in on all the little details of what they may and may not know, that we kind of make it, inadvertently you make assumptions and then you find out, whoa, take a step back, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, I really want to thank you all for your attention for 2 hours. I don't know about you, but it felt like the 2 hours went pretty fast to me.
Agreed.
And that is because of these questioning techniques. And that's why when someone was asking me how long is your lesson, 2 hours often goes by like this, and it's really not too hard. Yeah, it's not too hard to do. Nicole put a evaluation in the chat room, so if you would please click on that right now. And I just want to give you a chance to say, what is a take-home message? What is one thing that maybe you got out of this workshop that you hope to use in your next lesson? Maybe somebody who hasn't contributed before. How about, I'm going to call on people, this is terrible, but Joyce, do you have anything, one thing that you might want to incorporate in your lessons?
Oh, she's on mute.
You're on mute. Okay. Oh, sorry, Joyce. Sorry to call you out like that. How about Vani? Vani, can you give me one thing that you would like to do?
So far with both my students, I've always focused on reading aloud, either by me or by my students. And I never really focused on silent reading, unless it was homework, of course. Having attended this workshop, I now know that silent reading is important as well, as they go along and as they progress. So that is something I will definitely incorporate. The fear, I think, is that I'm wasting time by, just assigning 3 minutes to silent read. So that is something that I am definitely going to be looking at from now on.
Thank you. One other person, and then it'll be time for us to close up. One other person, something that you're going to incorporate into your lessons this coming week.
Just more questions.
Okay, just more questions. And
more things for them to consider. Pushing it back to them. I mean, otherwise it's just learn this word or,
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the idea of just, even no matter how advanced they are, scaffolding, starting from the simpler to the more complex, so they can build on what they know already, make them feel confident, and then get to where you need to go.
All right, thank you. And I don't know if you all saw in the chat, but Susan said the importance of emphasizing to the students that all 4 language skills work together and that all are necessary. This is so critical. It is, it's really, they work together. Well, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
I would suggest that you, if you want to, if you still need that link, I would suggest right now that you copy that link to those materials and then you save it so that you have access to them whenever you want it. All right, and that's all for me. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Happy tutoring.